Las Vegas was never supposed to be a city. No coastline to trade from, no farmland to sustain it, no river capable of forgiveness, just heat, stone, and a desert that erased mistakes without ceremony. For most of human history, this land rejected permanence. It tolerated movement, not settlement. You passed through, or you learned quickly why you shouldn't stay. And yet, against geography, logic, and long-term survival, Las Vegas rose. Not because it was destined to, but because it was useful. Useful to governments managing excess labor, useful to industries that required discretion, useful to systems that needed a place where rules could bend without attracting attention. Las Vegas was not built by accident. It was allowed to misbehave, allowed to experiment, allowed to absorb impulses that polite society preferred not to acknowledge. It did not grow upward from culture or necessity. It grew outward from loopholes, emergencies, and calculated tolerance. This is not the story of a party city. It is the story of how power builds where consequences arrive late, and how illusion, once profitable, becomes infrastructure. For thousands of years, the Mojave Desert enforced a single rule: survive only what is necessary. The Southern Paiute understood this. Their lives followed water, seasons, and restraint. They did not impose permanence where the land could not sustain it. Settlements were light, mobile, and respectful of limits. Las Vegas was never a destination. It was a pause. A shallow basin fed by underground springs, enough to rest, not enough to grow. When Spanish traders passed through, they named it Las Vegas, the Meadows, not a promise, a description. When the United States absorbed the region in the 19th century, the land offered nothing it wanted: no gold to rush, no timber to harvest, no port to defend. Maps marked it, but ambition ignored it. Vegas survived because it was irrelevant. In a nation obsessed with expansion, irrelevance was protection. No planners arrived, no investors followed, no visionaries attempted permanence. The desert did what it always had: filtered ambition. And Las Vegas, small and forgettable, learned a crucial lesson early. Survival here required remaining unnoticed. Las Vegas did not become a town because someone believed in it. It became a town because steam engines needed water. In 1905, the railroad cut through the desert between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City. The route demanded a midpoint, a place to refuel, repair, and rest. Vegas had just enough water to qualify. The stop became a settlement almost instantly. Land was auctioned in the open desert. Workers arrived. Saloons followed. Gambling tables appeared before churches. Prostitution and violence grew faster than governance. The town was alive, but uncontrolled. Washington responded the only way it knew how. By 1910, gambling was banned. Vice was outlawed. Order was imposed from afar. And the moment regulation arrived, Las Vegas began to collapse. Businesses closed. Population declined. The railroad moved on. Without disorder to feed it, the town could not survive. Vegas learned a second lesson, more important than the first. Compliance meant extinction. The desert had tolerated it. The law nearly killed it. Las Vegas did not resurrect itself. It was revived by federal desperation. During the Great Depression, the U.S. government needed proof that it could still command nature, labor, and belief. Hoover Dam was that proof, concrete on a mythic scale. Tens of thousands of young men were brought into the desert. They worked brutal hours in lethal conditions. They were paid regularly and had nowhere to spend their wages. Las Vegas became the solution. In 1931, Nevada legalized gambling, not as a moral awakening, but as a management tool. Vice was no longer denied, it was contained. Vegas became a pressure valve, a place where excess could be released without threatening order elsewhere. Drinking, gambling, sex, permitted within boundaries, observed from a distance. The city did not become a playground, it became a sandbox, a controlled environment where behavior could run hot without spreading. Vegas survived because it absorbed what the system could not acknowledge openly. The popular story says Las Vegas was built by gangsters, that the city rose from violence, greed, and criminal ambition alone. The truth is quieter and more efficient. Organized crime did not create Las Vegas. It recognized the conditions that already existed. Casinos were not chaotic enterprises. They were machines designed to convert human behavior into cash, continuously and invisibly. In an era before digital oversight, this made Las Vegas uniquely valuable. Enormous volumes of money moved through casino floors every night, untraceable and unquestioned. For criminal syndicates, it was not a gamble. It was an accounting solution. Bugsy Siegel's Flamingo was not a fever dream or a vanity project. It was a prototype, elegant enough to attract wealth, remote enough to avoid scrutiny, structured to launder money through spectacle. When Siegel was murdered, it was not the end of an era. It was a personnel change. The system absorbed the loss without disruption. Because Siegel was never the foundation, only a manager. Las Vegas was not lawless. It was selectively enforced. Rules existed, but attention was optional. Enforcement arrived when it was useful and disappeared when it was not. This predictability made the city functional, not chaotic. Crime did not corrupt Las Vegas. Las Vegas professionalized it, stripping away emotion, replacing impulse with process. The myth of mob control persists because it is comforting. It suggests disorder, rogue actors, individual villains. The reality is more unsettling. Las Vegas did not belong to criminals. It belonged to systems that understood how to move money, manage risk, and remain unaccountable, long after the gunmen were gone. One of the most enduring illusions Las Vegas ever sold was geography. The Strip, the image burned into memory, the corridor of light and excess, does not actually belong to the city whose name it carries. It exists on unincorporated county land, deliberately positioned beyond the reach of municipal authority. This was not an accident of growth. It was a decision. By placing the Strip outside city limits, developers avoided local taxes, reduced oversight, and gained flexibility that formal governance would have restricted. Power did not disappear here. It relocated. Regulation gave way to zoning. Law enforcement became negotiable. Accountability dissolved into paperwork. Jurisdiction became a tool. In the 1950s, the Cold War reached the desert. Nuclear tests detonated just miles from Las Vegas. Mushroom clouds rose into the morning sky. And instead of fear, the city sold tickets. Hotels advertised atomic views. Tourists gathered on rooftops with cocktails. The end of the world became a novelty. Vegas revealed something essential about American psychology. Catastrophe was acceptable if it was distant, brief, and entertaining. The city did not deny reality. It monetized it. Fear was reframed as spectacle. Annihilation became breakfast entertainment. If the apocalypse was coming, Vegas would comp it. By the late 1960s, organized crime was no longer efficient. Corporate money arrived quietly. Howard Hughes purchased casinos, land, and influence from behind closed doors. He did not bring chaos, he brought legitimacy. Casinos went public. Violence was replaced with contracts. Accounting replaced intimidation. The system did not change, it matured. Vegas did not become clean, it became insulated. The illusion improved. The extraction continued. Today, Las Vegas consumes water it does not have. It expands into a desert that cannot sustain it, and it depends entirely on belief that tourists will arrive, money will flow, and limits will wait. Vegas is not infrastructure, it is agreement, an agreement that consequences can be delayed. That illusion can substitute for sustainability, that reality can be managed with lighting, sound, and spectacle. As long as enough people agree, the city survives. Las Vegas was never inevitable. It was tolerated. A city assembled from exceptions, emergencies, and agreements that were never meant to last this long. Not built because the land invited it, but because the system found it useful. Vegas did not conquer the desert. It negotiated with it. Water was borrowed. Risk was deferred. Consequences were pushed into the future and wrapped in light and sound. For decades, Las Vegas functioned as a release valve, absorbing excess, laundering money, normalizing spectacle, and proving that illusion could be engineered at scale. It showed what happens when belief is treated as infrastructure, and when rules are written to bend instead of break. But systems remember. The desert remembers every gallon taken, every expansion approved, every assumption that tomorrow will be easier than today. Las Vegas survives not because it is strong, but because enough people still agree to pretend it is sustainable, that the music will continue, that the water will arrive, that the lights will stay on. History tells us this pattern is not unique. Civilizations rarely collapse in flames. They persist through denial, adjustment, and delay, until the margin disappears. Las Vegas is not an anomaly. It is a case study, a city that exists where the future is postponed and the present is monetized. And like all places built on borrowed time, its fate will not be decided by spectacle or belief, but by the moment when the desert stops negotiating. That is when the ledger closes.